Good morning and thanks for joining us today. This is a special report on the Beulah Hill fire in Pueblo County. Officials are holding a news conference as they update their progress right now. Let's take you there now.
Provide some updates on the fire. Wanted to welcome you. My name is Chris Barth. I'm a public information officer with Rocky Mountain Team Black. Today we're gonna go through our agenda here in a little bit, but I want to give you an update on the fire. Currently, we're at 5,232 acres and 50% contained. We'll have some more details about what's happening on the fire in a few moments. Our lineup of speakers today, we're going to have Lieutenant Governor Donna Lynn make some comments, followed by the Incident Commander Shane Greer. Sheriff Taylor will make some comments at that point, and then Mike Lewis, Deputy Executive Director CDOT, will be making some comments as well. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Lieutenant Governor Donna Lynn up to make some comments.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. And my primary purpose here really is to thank literally hundreds and probably thousands of people who have been involved in this incident. I wish I had all of their names, particularly the people who are on the front lines doing the firefighting, but let me acknowledge some of the leaders who have stood by the community over the past several days. First, Beulah Chief Brian Ware and all of the responders that are on the ground digging trenches, and then also who have come from across the state to help the community here in Beulah. Incident Commander Shane Greer, who you're going to hear from in the whole emergency response team, Sheriff Kirk Taylor and his department, and we have a number of our Colorado state agencies here who are assisting in the efforts. That includes our Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, our Department of Public Safety, and our Department of Public Health. We have a couple of our elected officials representing the community that I also want to call out. They're behind me. State Representative Danae Escar and our State Senator Larry Crowder, who I know have been by the sides of the people in the community, along with the county commissioners, and I believe Terry Hart is also here. But more importantly, the community, as I said, sort of stood by this and not only cooperated in the evacuation, but also a number of people volunteered. I think we had over 400 people just last night who came to our community meeting and who acknowledged the people who have been doing all the hard work, our firefighters and responders. They got a great standing ovation. I know many of you were there, and it was really heartwarming to hear the kind of thanks that we've gotten for all the work, and I am really honored to be part of this community. Like you, we are keeping the residents who lost their homes, those who were and remain displaced, and the first responders affected by this fire in our thoughts and prayers. And while, as you'll hear, there's been tremendous progress, there still are a number of hardships that those people have faced this week and will continue to face. You will hear from the experts in a few minutes about the situation, which is evolving, but as I think you can tell, made tremendous progress over the last couple of days. My commitment to you on behalf of Governor Hickenlooper is that the state will marshal every resource that it has to help in this situation, not just up through today when we're seeing greater containment and people coming back, but as we go forward. As you know, we've had our share of disasters in this state. They have been floods, fires, and other incidents. And I just want to quote what the governor said, because I think it's inspirational. I've seen plenty of broken roads and bridges and homes, but I have not seen a single broken spirit. And that's what we're seeing in the Beulah community and in Pueblo County. So I know we'll all get through this together. Again, the state is here to be your partner and to help the people in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Next, we're going to hear from Shane Greer, Incident Commander, Rocky Mountain Team Black.
Good morning, folks. As Chris stated in the opening, we're making great progress on the fire. We're at approximately 50% contained as of last night. We expect that containment to go up today by the end of the shift. Our firefighters are currently finishing up some fire lines in places that are hot, and we began mop-up operations today in some of the areas that we got lined yesterday on the fire perimeter. Yesterday we were allowed with the sheriff's office to let some folks go home, which was great news for them. Today, I believe, working with the sheriff's office, we think we have some areas that are safe today. He'll address it a bit more here in a minute. but I believe we can let some more folks go home again today. And we will continue from here forward as diligently, as quickly, and as safely as we can to get everybody home that's still remaining displaced as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thanks. And before I ask Sheriff Kirk Taylor to come up, I just wanted to remind everybody we will take questions and do questions and answers after all the speakers. So just again, as a reminder, we'll facilitate that after all the speakers. Sheriff Kirk Taylor.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming out again today. As we enter another phase in this firefighting effort, I want to again thank the firefighters. I thank the Lieutenant Governor and all the cooperation that we've gotten from not only our county commissioners, but the state and the federal too. I've gotten a lot of calls from I've gotten calls from Senator Gardner, from Senator Bennett's office, from Congressman Tipton. So they're all very interested in what's going on here and support this community very much. My comments are going to be broken up into two phases. First of all, you should have all received a press release that was pushed out. We're going to start phase 2 of re-entry. Those areas have been identified and we've been discussed with the incident commander. We're going to repopulate those areas today. We're also going to move another traffic control point that is currently at 96 and North Creek Road. We're going to move that inland, so we're basically shrinking our footprint and trying to get folks home so they can take care of their things. One thing, and it's kind of off subject, but it goes to the re-entry, and I want everybody to know, we'll push this out softly as well to the media. The experience out of a lot of these other fires, the Hayden Fire, in Fremont County specifically, people's power was off for approximately 3 days, sometimes more, sometimes less. Everything thawed, then it got really cold and everything froze again. So we had some re-entry folks that went home last night. They said, oh, well, this is still frozen, it's still good. It's not. So you need to be very careful when you re-enter your home. If things are frozen, they've already thawed and froze again, and they're probably not any good. They had a lot of sickness at the last fire here, so I thought that was important enough to throw out there. I want to talk a little bit about what I call the 3 phases of this incident, and that is the response, which you've all been witness to and we've been part of on the response to the fire. And then the re-entry that we talked about, we're going into phase 2. And then obviously the recovery, which is going to be long-standing, and we're going to get to some of those as we speak with some of the individuals from the state. We've had incredible support and cooperation from the state. To all my fellow sheriffs and everybody that has to work with the state, those of you that say it's difficult to work with the state, I have not experienced that. I've experienced just the opposite. So let's get down to the cause, origin, and manner of the fire, which is one of the responsibilities of the sheriff's office in this case. So just to give you a quick background, we wanted to be, obviously we always want to be as objective as possible in our investigative efforts. The investigation was spearheaded by my Law Enforcement Bureau Chief, David Lucero, who's here as well, and he'll be available for questions afterwards. But I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version because no investigation takes 3 days and you're done. We have done this investigation for the past 3 days. When it was safe, I tasked my detective division to go in and based upon the 911 call that we received to start backtracking and investigating that call. As such, I had one fire investigator, one detective. I elicited the help from the state immediately. Director Rankin at CBI. I asked for his top dog, fire investigator, and he was here within about 3 hours. And so those 3 did the initial investigation to include interviews with the individuals that were identified, to include a CDOT driver of a Traco, firefighters that were first on scene, people that came later, going back and doing designated times, and they did their full-blown investigation. As a backup to that, I inquired with the Forest Service and the BLM, who have the subject matter experts in the field of wildland fire investigation. And I wanted them to come in the next day and do an independent investigation, if you will, to confirm the findings of the first investigative unit. And so that's what happened, and that's the short version. It's still going on. It's still being formalized and memorialized in paper and data form. There are some scientific, some evidence that we have asked for some scientific evidence that is still forthcoming, such as maintenance records, those types of things. You can't get those in a day. So this is the preliminary findings of the investigation. These are by no means etched in stone right now, but I can tell you as soon as we were able to come to the conclusion of the cause, origin, and manner of the fire, we wanted to get it out to you because you guys beat us to death on this stuff. But one of the issues that the wildland fire investigators do is they go through and they absolutely eliminate the best they can what it is not. Right? So there's causal factors for all kinds of fires. For wildland fires, those include, and this is not all inclusive list, was it lightning? We've ordered a lightning report, right? That's forthcoming, but we know there was no lightning. Was it a cigarette butt? If it was a cigarette butt, we would have had evidence of a cigarette butt. So by series of eliminations, the only thing we could not eliminate at the site by the detectives on scene or through forensic analysis of the power lines was the equipment. Now the equipment encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses driver, it encompasses the machine itself, it encompasses the tracks and everything surrounding it. So we have pinpointed the point of origin to about a 3-meter square area. We know where it started. I think on your tour today you're probably going to want to look at that. It's very hard for the layman to actually look and do anything with it if you're not trained to do so. So you'll be seeing that as well today when you go on your tour. So with that, I just want to say one more thing. I wish all investigations were like this, with the cooperations of where we needed to go. That's why you're getting it in such a timely manner. Colorado Department of Transportation folks were extremely forward-looking and assisted us in every phase of this investigation. But the two things I want you to take out of this is that, number one, it was extremely objective and independent, and also with a secondary investigative effort. And then two, that the cooperation that we received from all phases of state government was incredible. And so with that, we'll turn it over to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Again, we'll have questions and answers following the speakers. I want to introduce Deputy Executive Director Mike Lewis from CDOT.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning, everybody. And before I get started, I just want to echo the Lieutenant Governor's comments about sending out our thoughts from all of CDOT to everybody that was affected by this event, whether you lost property or you had to be relocated, and you're still being impacted by this event, and we understand that, and our thoughts are with you. To follow up on the Sheriff Taylor's comments, we agree. We've reviewed the evidence and the conclusions drawn by the sheriff and other investigators, and it does appear that it was the CDOT excavator that was the likely cause of the initial spark. A little bit about what that excavator was doing there, what that track was doing there. We were in a planned maintenance operation, which was to repair a drainage swale going down to the river, and the work had been commenced last week. There was work for a couple of days last week, and then the operator came back on Monday to continue the work. On Monday, the operator was moving the stone just as he was the previous week, and he noticed the fire. He moved his excavator to try to put out a small fire that was originally seen. He was unable to do that, and while he was doing that, he called 911. So the operator actually called in the 911 call. And I want to tip my hat to all of the first responders in a fairly short period of time, and I'm sure the sheriff can give you the details on that the volunteer fire department got there. And I think it was a very quick response by the county, by the community, and then, as the sheriff pointed out, this collaboration of state and local officials and federal officials to contain the event, to protect home and property, and then to find out what happened. So we are with you all as CDOT, and the state will be working together to ensure that anybody that has questions on damage gets their questions answered, and we'll be referring people to the Disaster Assistance Center for all of those questions. But again, it certainly appears that that vehicle was doing routine maintenance work on the drainage swale to protect against potential floods, and that appears to be the cause of the spark. So we are here as CDOT to work with all the locals, all of our state partners, to ensure that this is put right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So at this time, we're going to take questions, and we'll ask you guys to just go ahead and field those questions, and we'll find the right speaker to answer them for you. Any questions at this time?
Can you kind of explain how the excavator started the fire again? It was moving rocks, or how did the fire actually get started?
Well, we don't know specifically. We don't have any type of we don't have any way to know. So the excavator was moving rocks. The individual driver, I mean, when we find the causation to be mechanical or equipment is actually the category. It could be an exhaust blowback when he was turning around on the exhaust, filling up with fuel in the exhaust. It could be a scrape with the bucket. It could be what we know it wasn't. We know he wasn't a smoker. We know there's no evidence of. So we know more of what it wasn't, which deduces down to the fact that it was mechanical and or of equipment. So any part of the equipment. If you've ever driven a track vehicle, that ground is very hard. It could be a spark from the track. We don't know, and we likely won't know. But we have narrowed it down to that vehicle.
Is that CDOT worker injured at all?
No, and I got to tell you that he's not injured. He's a great guy. He cooperated fully with our investigators. Was just sick to his stomach, but he tried so hard with the bucket when he found that, and there's evidence of that. You can see he just tried to pull it, tried to knock it down. But I got to tell you, the winds, if you were around Monday, or if you go back and look on Monday, were 25 to 35 miles sustainable coming off that hill. And when you go to the point of origin, that's where it all whirls around like a tornado. So, as is evident with the fire that you're seeing here today, where it is burned, the wind was headed northwest, southwest, and southeast, all at the same time. And the epicenter of that was down in that canyon where that track is. So it truly was the perfect storm for this young man. And unfortunately, I mean, it's an accident. That's what it is. And it's a very tragic accident. And thank God we didn't lose any lives. And we, so far, knock on wood, haven't injured any firefighters. So those are the good parts.
I hear CDOT was going to make it right. So I mean, you're going to pick up the tab for this fire?
I think what the state, all of the state administration under Governor Hickenlooper is going to do is to make sure that all the resources are working together, and through the Disaster Assistance Center, any concerns that anybody has will come through that center, and then the state, EMA, CDOT, Department of Administration will be looking at how do each one of those get addressed on an individual basis.
Any other questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about, I know you guys said you're working on the reentry phase part 2, kind of when you guys anticipate the next phase of people going back home?
For phase 2? Shane, do you want to address that again?
The question was talk about phase 2 and when we might think that would happen. So phase 2 will occur today. I believe, Sheriff, we're coordinated on phase 2 happening today. So we'll be re-entering folks in phase 2 today. As far as beyond phase 2 into phase 3, can't give you a specific on that. We're working diligently. Phase 3, or more folks going in, gets closer into Beulah, where we have fire lines close to town, and we have a whole lot of firefighters working, approximately 300 today. So, you know, I can't give you a definitive on that, other than we're working as hard as we can, and it will be as soon as we can possibly and safely get folks home into phase 3.
Do you have an estimate of how many people are involved in phase 2 that will be going home?
Oh, Sheriff, how many in phase 2? 100. Approximately 100 more today, on top of what went home yesterday.
But you're not sure, which areas will be next for residents to go home to today? Or
For today's?
Phase 2?
Phase 2, I'll let the Sheriff describe that specifically.
Yes, we are, and you should have had a press release pushed out to you already that will tell you exactly which areas are going to be re-entered today. We have to move a traffic control point from 96 off of North Creek Road and 96. We're going to move that in. We're going to shrink our footprint so everybody past that area is going to be asked to go to the reentry center at the 4-H building at the state fairgrounds, I believe at 1 o'clock. And then there's another area that we've indicated as well, but it's all on your press release. We'll be pushing it out to you.
Are there any current threats to structures or homes at this point, or?
Always, but I'll let the fire guys. So.
You're a fire guy. We talk about cops and fire guys a lot, sorry. So the question was, is there any current threats to structures? Yeah, there is. As you can see from behind us, there's not a lot of smoke today. Our firefighters, again, are making great progress on the fire. I would say most of our containment lines are in, which is reducing the threat significantly, and we are started into mop-up operations. But there is still a threat, and until we're certain that that threat is gone, unfortunately those folks are going to have to remain displaced. But as soon as we can safely put them back, very soon we will do so.
Will aircraft still be used today?
Yeah, I think before we started this press conference, you just saw a helicopter land behind us in the field. So they are using aircraft today. You know, aircraft use, as we spoke yesterday, is dependent upon the need of the folks on the fire line. If they need it, they call for it, but it is on hand.
So how many aircraft do we have today working fire?
Today we have 3 helicopters. We have 2 what we call light helicopters, and we still have the 1 heavy helicopter, and we have 2 single engine air tankers on scene today.
I don't know if I heard a containment number. Is there a containment line?
Yeah, as of last night it was 50%, 50%. That will go up today. I can't tell you how much. The percent containment usually we report at the end of the day, because when all the fire crews and all division supervisors come in at the end of the day, they tell us how much they've completed, and then we put in the report. So
you guys aren't going to be needing the super tanker at all?
No, I don't believe we'll be needing. I would be surprised today if we use any heavy air tankers. That's why we have just the 3 helicopters and the 2 small air tankers on scene today.
I know you guys classified what happened as an accident. Is there any financial liability, though, that falls on CDOT, or does that relief come through state funding?
Let them answer you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Rankin with the Department of Public Safety. So I think the question was about liability as a result of the accident. And the best response to that is to be determined. We certainly, all of us, recognize that there are many needs as the community recovers from this fire. And an important step in that recovery process is the standing up of the Disaster Assistance Center, the DAC, which is now up and running at the fairgrounds. And so we encourage anybody who has any needs or has any questions to go to the Disaster Assistance Center. And I've also got a phone number for the center as well, so let me push that out. 719-583-4640. And then just one additional note. So we do have some families who lost their homes, their primary residences. And we, the cumulative group, have been in touch with those families to get them some additional resources for their immediate needs. And under a statute that was enacted in 2014, the governor has authorized $5,000 for each of those families. Again, not to make them whole, but to provide for their immediate needs. Thanks.
All right, I think we have time for just 1 or 2 more questions if there are any. Okay, great. With no more questions, we will be moving into doing a media tour shortly after this press conference. So thank you all for coming again. We will plan on having another press conference again tomorrow. We'll move that back to our regularly scheduled time at 10 a.m. Thank you for coming today.
How are you going to